Sebastian and Catherine had been together for 3 years, 2 of which they'd spent as a happily married couple. Catherine worked at a modest publishing house, while Sebastian split his time between his roles as an economist and a university lecturer. Saturdays were sacred for them, a time to unwind and enjoy each other's company. Despite Catherine's striking appearance, Sebastian had never once felt a pang of jealousy, and she mirrored that trust. So, when he called her after work to mention that a friend had invited him out for a drink, Catherine simply wished him a pleasant evening and hung up, then went about her evening without a second thought. Honestly, she never understood why some of her girlfriends tried to keep their partners from spending time with friends. It seemed utterly ridiculous to her. While Catherine enjoyed her peaceful night, Sebastian sat across from his friend Cyril in a dimly lit bar, listening to him vent about his latest heartbreak. Apparently, Cyril's girlfriend had been cheating on him throughout their 6-month relationship. She'd been active on dating apps the entire time, casually chatting with other guys, seemingly indifferent to Cyril's feelings. Then, out of nowhere, Cyril turned to Sebastian with a pointed question. "You think Catherine's doing the same?" The question hit Sebastian like a slap. He wasn't sure how to react. He'd never personally experienced betrayal, and the idea that Catherine, his warm, open, and honest wife, might be hiding something so cruel seemed unthinkable. Shaking his head, he replied with quiet conviction, "She's not like that." Cyril scoffed, lips twisted into a bitter smile. "That's what I said about mine. She seemed sweet, gentle, even, but in the end, turned out to be a backstabbing snake." Sebastian pitied his friend's situation, truly, but he couldn't bring himself to agree. He had faith in his wife, deep, unwavering trust. Still, as he polished off his beer in a single swallow, Cyril kept going. "You know what I've decided? I'm gonna run background checks on every woman I date, dig through dating apps, make fake profiles, the whole 9 yards. Sebastian lifted a brow, unimpressed. He didn't like where this was headed. The whole idea felt a little too paranoid. Yet, to his dismay, part of him recalled the tiny voice he'd silenced before, the one that had, just for a moment, wondered if blind trust was naive. He brushed it aside, scolding himself for even entertaining such thoughts. But Cyril's words brought that doubt clawing back to the surface. Could it be possible? Could someone so seemingly sincere be hiding something? A quiet battle broke out within him. One side of him, the rational, loving husband, urged him to forget it, to stop before things spiraled out of control. The other, stirred by fear and curiosity, whispered dark possibilities. What if there was something? What if he didn't check, and ended up looking like a fool? What if the truth came out later and shattered everything? He knew that if Catherine discovered what he was about to do, it could wreck the very foundation of their marriage. She'd be devastated, maybe even furious. Still, despite the risks, Sebastian decided to go through with it. Curiosity, after all, has a way of gnawing at a person until there's nothing left but regret, or worse, revelation. The irony? Catherine had never once given him any real reason to suspect her. She wasn't the type to come home late from work, or disappear without explanation. She rarely went out with friends and always picked up his calls. In fact, she'd casually tell him about the compliments she got from coworkers and even the occasional inappropriate flirtation. Her openness had always reassured Sebastian. After all, what kind of person cheats, then turns around and tells their spouse about their admirers? Still, the seed had been planted. Starting off cautiously, Sebastian took a look through her phone. No dating apps, no shady messages, nothing remotely suspicious. But the lack of evidence didn't settle him, it only nudged him further. If there was something, it was well hidden. That's when he decided to get a little creative. He made a fake social media profile, picked a name at random, Max, grabbed a stranger's picture from the web, and carefully built what looked like a believable persona. Then he messaged Catherine. Every day, he sent her something. A compliment, a friendly hello, a charming little line. She didn't answer. She didn't accept his friend request. She didn't even react. She simply ignored him. Driven by frustration, Sebastian resorted to posting crude comments and compliments on her photos. He assumed that Catherine would eventually come to him with news of the obsessive admirer, convinced that his wife had no secrets from him. It wasn't until Catherine saw the inappropriate messages that she reacted. She swiftly deleted them all and sent Max a message, telling him to stop and to leave her alone. But Sebastian saw this as an opportunity, and continued sending even more messages. Catherine read them all, but never replied. "What do you want?" I'm not interested in talking to you, she wrote to the stranger. Max, undeterred, replied, I think you're really attractive, and I'd love to be friends. He'd been messaging Catherine for a month now, but she hadn't told Sebastian about the interactions with Max yet. This secrecy started to fuel Sebastian's growing anger and deepened the strain on their already fragile trust. It wasn't that Catherine would have been angry if he'd checked up on her. It was that Sebastian was starting to feel like he was on the verge of causing a scene and wrecking their family. In an attempt to regain control and push Catherine to meet Max in person, Sebastian decided to take matters into his own hands. He was curious to know just how far Catherine would let this communication go. At home, Catherine didn't act any differently. She remained the loving wife she always had been. But Sebastian couldn't ignore the subtle shifts in her behavior, which bothered him more than he'd cared to admit. It was hard to believe that the woman he loved was so casually interacting with another man while continuing to wear the mask of a devoted partner. Max's messages grew more persistent. I'd like to meet you. I think we could be great friends, he wrote, pushing for a real-life meeting. Catherine responded, maybe, but I can't do that. Then, she added, we won't tell my husband about it. It'll be our secret, finishing with a playful wink emoji. Sebastian took a strange kind of comfort in Catherine's response. After a month of pushing, she had finally agreed, and though he felt victorious, a bitter disgust and hurt churned inside him. The reality hit him hard. His wife had been unfaithful all along. That evening, he went to a bar after work to drown his thoughts in alcohol. By the time the bar closed, his mind was a whirlwind of confusion. Why did I do this? Could I have handled things differently? Suddenly, a wave of anger took over, and he began to lash out in his mind at everyone, Catherine, himself, and even Cyril, whose suggestion had planted the idea of testing their marriage in the first place. Sebastian couldn't escape it now. He had to see this through to the end. He had made arrangements to meet Catherine at the cafe on Max's behalf. The anxiety consumed him so much that sleep was elusive. Throughout the night, he tossed and turned, thoughts of their upcoming confrontation swirling relentlessly in his mind. He finally fell into a restless sleep, only to wake up just hours later, feeling drained and ill-prepared. Arriving early at the cafe, he took a seat and ordered a drink in an attempt to calm his nerves. But no amount of alcohol could soothe the adrenaline running through his body. By the time he finished his third drink, a message from Catherine popped up on his phone. She was on her way. He deliberately faced away from the entrance, hoping to delay the moment when she would recognize him. His heart pounded as he heard footsteps approaching. It was Catherine. The realization hit her the moment she laid eyes on him. It was not Max who had been waiting for her, but her husband. For a brief moment, the two exchanged silent glances, and the weight of the situation hung heavily in the air. Finally, breaking the silence, Catherine quietly asked, "What now?" Sebastian shrugged, doing his best to appear unfazed despite the emotional turmoil raging inside. "Divorce?" he suggested in response to her unspoken question. Catherine nodded slowly and signaled the waiter for another drink. The two sat in silence, avoiding eye contact, sipping their drinks slowly. In the emotional aftermath, the divorce seemed to affect Catherine more straightforwardly than it did Sebastian. She moved in with a friend and quickly started a new relationship. Sebastian, meanwhile, watched from the sidelines as her life unfolded. 6 months later, Catherine found herself in a second marriage, only to face another divorce when she discovered her new husband had a hidden family, a mistress, and a 2-month-old daughter behind her back. Sebastian, in some ways, couldn't help but feel a strange sense of satisfaction. But deeper down, a flicker of sympathy for his ex-wife remained. Once again, she found herself alone, while her friends were building families of their own. Sebastian tried to imagine what she might be feeling, but he couldn't fully shake the unease the situation left in him. His friend had been right. Catherine, someone who seemed so loyal, had ultimately failed the test. And now, Sebastian knew he couldn't ever trust anyone with the same level of blind faith he had trusted her.